From the beautiful city of Chicago, it's White Sox baseball, where it's Robin Ventura and the Sox taking on the first place Detroit Tigers under Jim Leyland. Hello again, everybody. The Tigers are in town. It should come as no surprise because we seemingly played them the entire second half. We saw them for the first time on July 8th. 19 times we'll be seeing them before the year is over. These Tigers are awfully tough. And, Tommy, they're tough because of an excellent pitching staff. Maybe the best starting rotation, certainly in the American League, maybe in all of baseball. And tonight, there's a really big right-hander on the mound.
And he's one of the hottest pitchers in baseball right now, Steve. You look at Doug Fister, all 6'8" of them. In his last 5 starts, he's 4-0 with a microscopic earned run average. He's got a good curveball, as you see right there. But his specialty is keeping the ball down, getting a lot of ground balls. He's not a real strikeout guy, but he can pinpoint with great accuracy. Now, the Sox have got their best chance tonight in Chris Sale. Chris has been a real tough luck pitcher all year long. He's got a 7-11 record, but his earned run average is 2.77, so he hadn't had any luck at all. He probably could have about 15 wins himself.
There's a whole lot of reasons why the Tigers are doing what they're doing. I mean, you could look and you can pick out a player at every position and say, well, that's the reason. But one of the real surprises in a guy they got in the offseason for a 2-year contract is Torrey Hunter, and Torrey's really tearing it up.
The best signing in the offseason, without a doubt. Torrey Hunter hitting second in front of Cabrera and fielders, probably the best spot in baseball to hit right now. Stevie's going to get a lot of fastballs to hit, but what he does is bring a lot of character to the team. He's great in the clubhouse, and he's still a great athlete. He's hitting over 300. He's hitting with power. He can steal bases. He's a center fielder playing in right field. Great addition to this Tiger team.
And tonight, there is no doubt that the one man you have to shut down is the American League Player of the Week, Miguel Cabrera. He might be the player of the century, but he certainly is red hot at this point. So stay with us because we're going to have an exciting baseball game and a great call after these messages.
Comcast Sportsnet is brought to you in part by your Chicago area and Northwest Indiana Lexus dealer, who invites you to test drive a Lexus today. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois, through it all. AT&T Uverse. Visit att.com/freeyourtv. Rethink possible. And by Ford. Check out America's freshest lineup at your local Ford store or at localfordstores.com.
Welcome back to beautiful U.S. Cellular Field. My partner, Ken Harrelson, is a little under the weather tonight, and we wish him back in a hurry. So, Hawk, come back, and in your stead, Tom Paciorek will be taking over the duties for me. So let's take a look at how Jim Leland is going to line up his Tigers for the game tonight. Austin Jackson's going to lead it off, and it's Torrey Hunter, Miguel Cabrera, who's been all everything, and you can pick out any 6 games you like, but the last 6 have been particularly good. Then it's Fielder, Martinez, Tuiasa Sopo, Infante back off the disabled list with Pena and Iglesias rounding it out. The defense and how they're going to line up behind Chris Sale left to right, Diaza, Danks, and Garcia. In the infield, Keppinger, Ramirez, Beckham, and Konerko. Josh Fegley with the nod behind the plate, and our Lexus pursuing perfection starting pitcher is Chris Sale. On for his 22nd start of the year, he's looking for his 8th win. His ERA is spectacular, 2.77. 161 strikeouts and 149 in the 3rd inning. The umpires for the game tonight. Mark Wegner behind the plate. The crew chief Mike Winters is at first. DJ Rayburn is at second. And Laz Diaz is at third. So on a beautiful night for baseball, 71 degrees. We had some rain before the game. In fact, it rained a couple of different times. But right now, not many clouds in evidence. It's a gorgeous night. And the Tigers come to town in first place. And Austin Jackson will lead it off, hitting .272 with 9 home runs and 28 driven in. The first pitch of the ball game is a fastball in the inside corner for a strike. Another good fastball in the inside corner, and quickly Jackson in an 0-2 hole.
And Jackson's only 2 for 19 against Chris in his career, so it's big to get him out because of those big boppers coming up next.
That one misses up and in. They shade him a couple of steps to right center field.
Yeah, they're giving them both lines.
Sweeping breaking ball, and it's hooked well foul.
Ouch.
Tommy, is this the type of lineup that you were used to seeing when you played? A lineup that top to bottom could really hurt you?
You know, I think it reminds me of the great National League teams of the 70s. You know, the Big Red Machine, the Philadelphia Phillies, the Pirates. They were really good.
Line drive left field. Diaz are right there.
Yeah, because they've got a great hitter. It seems like an above-average player at every position, and you really can't say that about baseball right now. I think because of the salary dilemmas that it creates. But, boy, I'll tell you what, this Tiger offense is unbelievable.
Torrey Hunter coming up, hitting .311 with 13 home runs, 60 driven in. And they had Avisail Garcia in right field, but they wanted a proven veteran and a leader. And they certainly got one as Torrey Hunter looks at strike one. Against Chris Sale, well, it's pretty hot. 4 for 8 with a home run. But he's in an 0-2 hole as Chris throws him a good changeup, keeps it away.
Chris isn't messing around. He's getting it and throwing it.
He got him. And the tag applied by Fegley so quickly. 2 up and 2 down.
Nice. It's really important to get ahead of these Tiger hitters because when they're sitting 2-0, 3-1, they can absolutely knock you out of the ballpark. Great changeup right there. He was protecting, and that's when you're going to get the strikeouts he's going to swing at that pitch with 2 strikes more than likely than he is on 2-0 or 3-1 when he's in charge.
Miguel Cabrera comes up at .365, 36 home runs, 110 driven in.
He's good.
Once again, what a year he's having. Towering fly ball right field. Garcia drifting back. Drifting back. It's gone. That ball just seemingly got up in the jet stream. He hit it off the end of the bat. And it's 1-0 Tigers.
Tell you what, Steve, off the bat, it looked like a fly ball to right. I mean, That's home run number 37, RBI 111, and I don't know. What do you say about this guy? Fastball, outer half of the plate, just lets that ball get a little bit deeper. He is so strong. He reminds me a lot of Frank Thomas in his heyday. Frank was the one guy that could do that. Let that ball get deep on him and just kind of flip it over the right field fence. Wow.
Doug Fister pretty happy because he's got the early lead as Prince Fielder steps up and looks at a breaking ball away. Fielder hitting .261 with 17 home runs. He's driven in 81, and it's first time in Cabrera's career that he's had a guy behind him that can protect him, and Fielder can do that. So the count evens at 1-1.
Excuse me, Steve, do you think he's going to win the Triple Crown this year again?
No, I don't think he'll catch Chris Davis in home runs. 1-2 count. But that being said, Cabrera right now is getting hotter just like he did last year. I mean, he just keeps seemingly getting hotter with each and every game. So who's to say? He got him, but not before. A Cabrera home run put the Tigers on top 1-0. We'll head into the bottom of the first inning with the Sox coming to bat. Sox tonight. Diaz leading it off. Gordon Beckham in the 2 spot. Then it's Ramirez, Dunn the DH with Konerko, Garcia, Keppinger, Danks, and Josh Fegley catching and hitting 9. The defense, and now they'll set up behind Doug Fister, left to right, Tuiasa Sopo, Jackson, and Hunter. In the infield, Cabrera, Iglesias, Infante, and Fielder. Brian Pena gets a nod behind the plate, and our Lexus pursuing perfection starting pitcher is Doug Fister. He's 10-5, the ERA 3.5. He hardly walks anybody. 26 walks in 149 innings. He's allowed just 11 home runs. And he faces Alejandro Diaz, hitting .275 with 13 home runs and 48 driven in. Looks at a fastball off the plate for a ball. Diaz just 1 for 6 lifetime against Fister, as he throws a fastball for a strike. Did you feel that a taller pitcher had an advantage because of the angle that the ball came from?
You know, if the motion matched it, because he's got a little bit of funky delivery there, Stoney.
Little looper into center field, and Austin Jackson, who can cover alley to alley with the best in the business, makes the play. How about a guy that size who comes over the top and also has a curveball from the same release point as a fastball?
Well, that's not real fun. But, yeah, the fact that he's 6... What was the big right-hander from the California Angels is what he reminds me of. Mike... oh, boy. Mike Whips is kind of like reminds me of Fister. I think Mike even had better stuff, though. Mike threw a little harder. But he had the same type delivery.
Gordon Beckham hitting .299, 3 home runs, 16 driven in. He's been consistently hot and actually hitting in tough luck. When you look at the numbers and what he's done, it's hard to believe hitting .299 he'd be hitting in tough luck. But He's been scoring up just about everything. He's had some problems with Pfister over the course of his career, as you can see. Fouls that one off, and the count goes to 1-2. Their normal catcher, Alex Avila, was just put on the 7-day disabled list for concussion. And that's something new that they've tried this year, because a lot of catchers are experiencing that. And so he'll be gone for a week, actually probably 5 days at this point, as they made it retroactive, and Pena's behind the plate tonight. Little ground ball. Omar Infante over, and he makes the play. Let's take a look at our Farmers Insurance picks to click. The crew, they went with Abisail Garcia. Tom/Hawk, who was running away with it, went with Gordon Beckham, only because Hawk takes Gordon Beckham most every day. And I'm scuffling. So I went with Adam Dunn, who's killed Pfister over the course of his career. And, of course, with that burden of me on his back, he'll have a tough night.
I helped you with that total, too, Stoney. You know, when filling in for you, I've always lost. So don't feel too bad about that. But I'm going with...
certainly appreciate that.
All my grandkids, led by the great Benzini, and all the Pinecrest Paladins. We're going with Beckham. He's going to get them later on in the game.
Alexei Ramirez at 285, 3 home runs, 34 driven in. Is that a pretty good run at it against Doug Pfister? Outfield shading him toward right center. And a broken bat got in his kitchen. An easy ground ball and an easy 1-2-3 first. So we head into the top of the second. It's a 1-0 game. And Dan usually has some very interesting things to talk about, and tonight it's Gordon Beckham, but I guess what he said more than about him.
Right, absolutely. You know, with the deadline gone, with a little bit of a youth movement kind of in place, there have been some questions about whether or not Paul Konerko, how he fits into this. And obviously he's a free agent at the end of the year, and you know, there's questions whether or not he's going to come back, but Konerko's been adamant since January. He'll answer these questions at the end of the season when it's appropriate. So that leaves a lot of room for hypotheticals. But, you know, one of the things we were asking Gordon about was who fills the leadership role if Konerko was gone next year. And I thought the most interesting thing that came out of it was that Gordon said, hey, we'll figure that out if it needs to be figured out. But I think Paul has a lot left in the tank and a lot to give. And, you know, I mean, to hear that from a, you know, to hear that certain, you know, that, I don't know, confident of a statement from a teammate was a nice thing to hear, because there has been so much speculation about this the last couple days.
Victor Martinez, who has absolutely clobbered Chris Sale, and not a whole lot of guys have these kind of numbers. This year, now 7 for 8 against Chris with that base hit. So do you think that Gordon has the ability to do what Paul has done with the added responsibility of one day being the captain of this team?
You know, we asked Robin about that today, and he thinks definitely Gordon would be a candidate. I mean, he's had parts of 5 seasons now to kind of watch Paul every day and learn from him the preparation, the work ethic, just to see how much effort goes into being ready for every game. And so he's had a good model to work off of, and Gordon talked about that a little bit. But I don't know that he wants to assume that role just yet, because obviously Paul gives these guys a lot to soak up. And you know, Jake did the same thing with the pitching staff, and I think that those kind of things don't, you know, it's not easy to replace.
You're down there every day, and you're talking to all of the players all the time, including Paul, quite obviously. And can you tell if he's leaning one way or the other?
The thing that I think stands out is how he's still having fun. You know, this is definitely a trying year for him. The back injury, that was only the 3rd time in 15 seasons he's gone on the disabled list. But you still see the energy, the effort, and the enjoyment. And I think that's the stuff that is going to determine whether or not he wants to come back. Because he said, as long as I'm still liking this, why wouldn't I, you know, why would I go? You know, I think skills, it's hard to determine what's what when your back has sidelined you for a month. And you've seen signs this last week that he's hitting the ball pretty hard. So obviously there's still some value there. But you know, just based off what we've seen, I think, yeah, there's a chance he wants to.
Well, we've seen some signs of the old Paul Konerko every now and then, and hopefully we'll see him a little more often now as his back starts to heal. But anytime you voluntarily take injections into your back, you know you're not feeling particularly well.
Absolutely. And he said it was the weirdest month ever. He played that one game, came back after 8 days, played the one game, and felt like he'd gone away from the team. And, you know, I mean, if this is going towards a youth movement, obviously we have the right fielder who's 22. You have Leury Garcia, who came over and might be a part of this team next year. He's 22. You got a lot of younger guys. Having somebody like that around could be very valuable to a club going forward.
Well, Dan Hayes, thank you very much. Good information on Gordon Beckham and Paul Konerko. And we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. I mean, this is a team that for years and years depended on Paul's big bat and underrated glove at first base. Hopefully we see more of the old Paul as we move down the stretch here. So thank you very much.
Thanks,
Omar
Dan.
Infante just activated off the disabled list. It was a takeout slide at second base and a bruise on his shin, as well as some ankle problems that sidelined him for the better part of a month.
Omar Infante's a real good player. You know, he made the National League All-Star team a couple of years ago, Stoney, as a utility guy for the Braves. That's how good he was playing. They traded him to the Marlins in that Dan Uggla deal. And I just love this guy. I think he is so consistent. He's a good, solid bat, plays good defense, and he's just a good complement to the rest of these guys in this Tiger lineup.
Little looper into center field. Dank's coming on. He's got this one easily. So after the single by Martinez, the force out at second off the bat of Tui Asasopo. Little lazy fly ball to center field, and it'll bring up Brian Pena.
Did you have a guy that wore you out like Victor Martinez is going after Chris Sale? Can you remember one guy that just couldn't make an out against you?
I had a lot of guys left-handed, and usually left-hand hitters. There were 2 right-handers that killed me. Jim Rice, 21 for 39 lifetime.
Wow.
Buddy Bell, another guy. And, of course, the left-handers, Cecil Cooper, Ted Simmons. Guys that, regardless of what I threw, it appeared that the catcher was telling him what I was throwing. But there was no deception, apparently. And some other right-handers I would get out fairly easily, but those guys, not so much.
I wish the catcher would have told me what you were throwing. I knew it was a curveball, but I was still looking for the fastball. That's how smart I was.
Well, Pena's the switch hitter.
Boy, he has made the rounds. Brian has.
Much better hitter from the left side. But anytime you can get a backup catcher who's a switch hitter, you got yourself something pretty valuable. Getting .299, 4 home runs, 18 driven in overall. Line drive. It's going to fall. And Garcia can't cut it off. He didn't take a particularly good route to that. Tui Asasopo is going to score. And it's a 2-0 game. So Pena drives in his 19th run of the year. It appeared to me, Tommy, you played the outfield. Should he have rounded that off?
I believe he should have, Steve. It looked like he was trying to catch it in the air at first, Take a look at the pitch. Nice job of hitting, going with the pitch by let it get back a little bit deeper and hits it hard the other way, which is what you have to do on that particular pitch. You're right. He cuts straight across, and I think he does a little bit of a circle right there. He holds him to a single and possibly a first and third situation instead of what we got right now.
That brings up Jose Iglesias, hitting .324 and a line drive, but it's right at Gordon Beckham. So the Tigers score the second run on a couple of hits. They leave one. We head into the bottom of the second, and it's 2-0 Detroit. Miller Lite.
Great seats are still available for the remainder of the season. Prices have been greatly reduced, and the schedule is full of great matchups, promotional nights, and post-game fireworks. Lower-level tickets for all remaining Monday through Saturday games start as low as $20, and Sundays start as only $15. Purchase your tickets today by visiting WhiteSox.com or calling 866-SOX-GAME.
Adam Dunn to lead it off. Lifetime 6 for 10 against Pfister.
Low ball pitcher, low ball hitter.
And he looks at a changeup and takes a strike. Just a gorgeous night for baseball. That evens the count at 1-1. Earlier today, Hugh Darvish had a career-high 15 strikeouts against Houston. Lost a perfect game in the 6th inning. And on the play, the call to the thought process of both Darvish and A.J. Pierzynski on a 2-2 pitch was blown on a curveball. And after he walked the hitter to lose the perfect game, but the no-hitter was intact, A.J. said something, and boom, he got the boot.
Oh,
so
that's awful.
A.J. got thrown out of the prospective no-hitter, and Hugh Darvish went on to lose his no-no in the 8th inning. Chris Corcoran hit a home run with 1 out in the 8th, but Texas won 2-1. So the Rangers continue to be one of the hottest teams in all of baseball. They're now 69-50. Oakland won to keep pace. They won north of the border in Toronto. They're just a game back. The Rangers have won their 8th game in a row.
Rangers are good, and Darvish is about as good as you can get.
That one right at Tuiasosopo, who drifts back a couple of steps and puts it away. Here are the standings in the West. The Mariners way back, but they've got Felix Hernandez, who doesn't matter what the Mariners' record is. Felix Hernandez is out of this world. The Rangers pouring it on, but the Athletics just, they won't go away.
No.
They're hanging right there.
They're a fun team to watch. You know, they've got some guys that are really excited. You don't recognize their names or anything, but they score runs and they pitch really well.
Well, Josh Reddick has started to heat it up. Josh Donaldson at third base has been just terrific. And Paul Konerko hitting .242 comes up. Soft ground ball. Cabrera's got it. Long throw across, and quickly 2 up, 2 down here in the second.
Well, Stoney, remember a couple of weeks, was it last week or the week before, that Miguel Cabrera was ejected from the game batting in the middle of a count with the bases loaded.
Yes.
The umpire decided that it was more important for him to be seen than the fans to see Miguel Cabrera hit. I think it was in the first inning also.
And Cabrera might be,
or maybe a second time.
One of the most easygoing players that I've seen. He very rarely shows a whole lot of emotion except joy.
Yeah.
I mean, you would be joyous too if you could hit like him.
I'd be happy if I was him.
Abisail Garcia playing against his former mates, and anytime you do that, the time you played with about 14 teams, so you know how much motivation you have when you play against a former team.
Oh, yeah.
And you should have hit 890. But he throws a fastball by Garcia.
They kept throwing curveballs. I'm telling you. Tell me what's coming.
What I always liked about you was that you never felt that the team that was trading you didn't want you. You always felt that the team was trading for you really wanted you. And that's the opinion.
Actually, I didn't think. Thanks for saying that, though.
I was with 5 myself, so I can't exactly, it didn't work out like the Cal Ripken Jr. story.
Right. Or the George Brett. It just doesn't happen that way. It's tough to stay with one team anymore. You look at Robin Yount, had a great career in Milwaukee, and George and Ripken, and very few guys can say that. Mays didn't even
he didn't
play.
say the same
he was
thing.
with the Mets.
He went to the Mets later on.
Yeah.
That was a financial deal. I was there at the time, and Horace Stoneham couldn't take care of Willie down the road, but he knew the Mets could.
Right.
And he worked out a 10-year deal after Willie retired, and that's one of the reasons why he went to the Mets. Soft one hopper to shortstop, and Iglesias throws him out. So 6 up, 6 down. We'll head into the top of the third. It's a 2-0 game, Tigers. Run that Miguel Cabrera hit in the first inning, did you believe it was out?
I thought it was a fly ball to right, a routine one, Steve, and it was amazing how much carry. That's how strong he is, and I pointed out earlier, he reminds me so much of Frank Thomas when Frank was in his prime wearing that White Sox uniform. But to look at it, it's a fastball out over the plate. He looks like he pops it up, and all of a sudden he just muscles it out of the park. Up until that point, he was only 2 for 14 against Chris Sale in his career.
He's at the point now where he's hitting everyone in every situation, and literally knowing the fielder was coming up next, knowing that Chris Sale has been so outstanding against left-handers this year, you think about walking him in that situation.
It is. You'd almost have to, because it's amazing too, and you got a great hitter and fielder coming up.
Well, there's a look at one of the best hitters of not only this generation but maybe any generation, Miguel Cabrera. Ground ball to third. Long throw for Keppinger, but he gets it across in time, and Jackson is now 0 for 2. Torrey Hunter, strikeout victim in the first inning. You know, Chris Sale has given up just one extra base hit to a left-hander all year long. That came to Luke Scott in Tampa Bay. One. And there's only, unfortunately, one left-hander in the lineup, and that's Prince Fielder. As Hunter slices that ball, no chance at all for Garcia. The Tigers got off to a relatively slow start once again, giving the whole division some hope that they would actually have a shot at it. But it seems like, just like last year, when they decided to really get serious about this whole process, they put the hammer down, and before you know it, they went to Cleveland for a 4-game series, swept it all, and find themselves coming in with a 7-game lead over the Indians. Little chopper up the middle. Ramirez gets to it, fires it across, and gets him.
Well, the thing is, they're a better team than they were last year. They got added Torrey Hunter. They've got Victor Martinez healthy. And as you pointed out earlier, they've got the best starting rotation in baseball, probably. And, you know, that doesn't hurt them. Their bullpen, I think, is a little, you know, sketchy at times. But
they've gotten it back together now. I mean, they were sketchy early in the year, but now they seem to have things in pretty good shape in that pen. And they also have, for a full season, Anibal Sanchez. And he's a terrific starting pitcher. So 1 through 5, they're awfully tough. And Cabrera looks at one inside. We told you about the first time up with 2 outs and nobody on. He lifted a seemingly innocuous fly ball to right field that just carried out of the ballpark. That went off the end of the bat, an easy play for Pauling. So 3 up, 3 down in the 3rd inning. We'll head to the bottom of the 3rd. It's 2-0 Detroit. Using hashtag White Sox Talk, and we'll read one back later in the game, and it could very well be yours. There's a look at Mario Batali, a celebrity chef who's one of the stars of the Food Network, has a whole lot of restaurants in New York, and decided to take in a ball game tonight. So I'm sure that he will find the cuisine around U.S. Cellular Field to be just outstanding, because I think they have some of the best ballpark food here at this park in all of baseball. No question about it, Steve. I agree with that 100%. He looks like he's eaten some of his fine cooking, too. You have to taste, Tommy Boy. You have to taste. It's very important. And, of course, if he makes his way down to the Miller Lite Bullpen Sports Bar and Patio Porch, he'll find the home of the Bertucci boys.
Oh, boy.
And probably pick up a pretty good sausage sandwich, some hamburgers, some chicken.
How about those ribs the Bertucci's have?
1-2 count on Jeff Keppinger, hitting .235, a couple of home runs, 31 driven in. Doug Fister continues to roll long, 6 up, 6 down. Right back through the middle, a base hit.
Cancel the postgame show. And you can watch the game in luxury from behind home plate in the Gold Coast Tickets Club here at U.S. Cellular Field. Gold Coast, boy, that's easy for me to say. Gold Coast Tickets. You got a guy. I love Gold Coast tickets. I flunked reading in school. Did you notice that?
That's quite all right. That's the toughest part of the job. The rest of it's pretty easy. Don't tell anybody how easy it is. As Jordan Danks comes up, and he hits it hard to center field, but it's not going anywhere. And if it stays in the park, Austin Jackson is going to make the play. So something that I didn't think I'd be able to say ever when doing a baseball game is Mariano Rivera has blown 3 saves in a row for the first time in his career. And for the first time ever, one hitter in consecutive at-bats on different days hit a home run against him. And that guy homered off Chris Sale in the first inning. That was Miguel Cabrera.
Guess who?
So a lot of firsts in New York and a lot of firsts for Mariano Rivera. And it all started out right here, where he tried to backdoor a slider to Adam Dunn, who tied it up in the 9th inning. Only his 3rd blown save of the year, the first one that he had missed in quite some time.
Oh, yeah.
Great at bat by Adam Dunn, and tied up the game at 4. Josh Phegley fouls that one back, and he's in an 0-2 hole, hitting .207, 3 home runs, 11 driven in. I find, Tommy, he's a better hitter when he hits to right field, but he hit 3 home runs early. Seems like he's trying to pull everything. Is that just a product of youth?
You know, I think it is, Steve, because, you know, I still say that the vast majority of the pitches are going to be in the outer half of the plate. So you have to be able to handle that and then accidentally hit home runs, because Josh is a strong guy, and he was doing it. Why not take the same approach you had when you were in AAA? I mean, these guys aren't that much better. They're not throwing it that much harder. Probably it might be easier sometimes to hit the big leagues than it is in the minor leagues.
I think the best at bat he had when Robin put on a hit and run when he was up, and he had to stay right with it. He took the ball and lined it into right field. Other than that, he's trying to pull the breaking ball away, and you're going to ground out a lot to the left side if you do that.
Well, he's open at the plate. He's right on top of the plate, which would lend to more of a pulling type of a situation. But if you change speeds on him and keep the ball away, he has got to take a shot at right center. Not necessarily right field, but at least up the middle. Say hit to the gaps, left center to right center.
Ground ball to short. Iglesias over to first, and it goes 6-4-3. Out of the inning. So we'll head into the 4th. It's 2-0 Tigers. Ranch Doritos, Locos Tacos from Taco Bell, Live Mas. It's hard to the order due up for the Tigers. Fielder Martinez and Tui Asasopo to face Chris Sale as we lead off the 4th inning. Prince Fielder, a strikeout victim in the first. A lot of teams making moves all around baseball. Adam Rosales, who was released by the A's, picked up by the Rangers. One hopper right at Paul. So 1 pitch, 1 out. And Adam's a local guy. Pretty good player because of his versatility.
Yeah.
And so now he finds himself right in the middle of the pennant race with Texas, and there are worse places to go.
Yeah, no question. I'm surprised that Oakland got rid of him, that made that move.
As am I, because he played very well against the Sox. Yet Oakland decided they had enough middle infielders, and Texas, with Leury Garcia coming to our ball club, decided they needed another one. And here comes Victor Martinez, who has murdered Chris Sale, including a base hit the first time we saw him this evening. Do you have a picture that you ever did to what Martinez is doing to Sale?
Tommy John. And the only reason is because after Tommy John had Tommy John surgery, I used to catch him every day because I lived down the street from him. So I knew exactly what he was throwing. And in the offseason, he'd throw batting practice to me. So thank goodness for Tommy John. He probably gave me another 5 years. Yeah.
Well, probably then without you, he'd have won over 300 games.
Probably. And certainly in the Hall of Fame.
Little chopper, tough play. Martinez can't run well, but there is nothing Keppinger can do.
What is that, 8 for 9 off him this year?
That is 8 for 9 off him this year.
Lord. Hit it hard, hit it soft. He's going to find a way to get a hit against Chris. Just nubs this one off the end of the bat, and there's really no play for Keppinger, so stick it in your pocket. Look at, he's already down the line. You got to play him deep because, as you mentioned, Stoney, he can't run a lick.
That brings up Matt Tuiasosopo, who grounded into a force out, but later scored in the second inning on the Pena double. He's a platoon player. Tigers got him as a minor league free agent, so he didn't cost him anything, and he's turned into a pretty good player against the left-handers. And because we have 4 left-handed starters out of the 5 starters we have, we've seen a lot of Tuiasosopo.
That's right. Andy Dirks is the other guy. They like him. He's good young player, but he's a left-handed hitter.
Sweeping breaking ball, misses inside. The appeal to first. Mike Winters says no, he didn't swing.
Well, the pitch is right on the corner, the way we see it.
Mark Wegner said no. So the count evens at 1-1. And he follows it straight back.
Yeah, you were talking about Alex Avila earlier, Stephen, about his concussions. And, you know, I was just thinking about that as that ball comes back to the screen. You know, the Tigers have a lot of hard throwers, and a lot of times you're going to just miss the ball underneath. And a lot of times that catcher is going to get hit by about a 100-mile-an-hour pitch right in the face mask. So I think that kind of contributes to stuff like that.
Right back up the middle, right over the head of Chris Sale into center field. I was having that very conversation with Al Avila, who's the vice president, assistant general manager. I saw him before the game today. He was walking in, and we talked about Alex going on the disabled list. And I said, you know, you've got Scherzer. The ball jumps everywhere. Verlander throws up to 100 miles an hour at times. You guys have a staff, especially out of your bullpen, of hard-throwing guys. And certainly catchers will get hit. And it seems like, from what we've seen, Alex Avila gets hit more than most. And so Al concurred that that was the case. He said sometimes it runs in cycles, but it seems like Alex has really taken a beating, and that's why they disabled him.
You can't center the ball against those guys as often.
To right field, Garcia drifts over. He's got room, and he makes the catch. And on the play, Martinez tags up. He'll go to third base.
Well, that ball carried a lot farther than I thought. It's where you want to hit it, to right field today, if you want to get a homer.
In talking with Avila, I was talking about Iglesias and the fact that Dave Dombrowski, thinking ahead, thinking and having a pretty good idea that Johnny Peralta was going to be on that list, and probably figuring he wasn't going to appeal, that they were going to lose him for the remainder of the season, they made a preemptive strike. They got Iglesias in the three-way deal that found Jake Peavy going to Boston. We got Avisail Garcia. Without the suspension of Peralta, I don't believe we would have gotten Garcia.
I agree with that, yeah, because I talking with Jim Leyland before the game, they really like him. Got great talent, but they didn't want him to platoon, say, this year and not get enough at bats to fulfill his the player that he is. Well, the Sox, he's going to get as much playing time as he wants.
And another factor is we didn't match up with Detroit as far as making a deal. They don't need starting pitchers. We had Jake Peavy, so we had to make a three-way deal, and I congratulate all the GMs for getting it done.
Yeah. I think everybody was helped by that deal.
Very much so. Ryan Pena, who's double, drove in his 19th run of the year. If you're just joining us, it's a 2-0 game. Tigers have out-hit the Sox 5-1. It's been an errorless game to this point. That changeup misses down, and the count goes to 2-1. Well, Avila said that Iglesias has as good a hands as you'll ever see. He said so defensively they really picked it up at shortstop. He said, now, will he be able to hit? We don't know quite yet. He said at another time in another part of the year he probably would still be in AAA, which I thought was pretty interesting. He said he doesn't learn the intricacies of how to hit quite yet. He said he'll probably pick it up. We don't know for sure that he'll do that, but we needed a guy, because we have enough offense, who could make all the plays at shortstop. And he said Iglesias not only can play short, he can play third, he can play second, he can do whatever you want to do, and those great hands are right there with him. So that one hit hard but fouled down the line. Yeah, so it was a good pickup for Detroit.
Yeah, every time I saw Iglesias played, he played third base too, and he can really pick it over there. Great hands, and his reputation certainly came as a shortstop. So, but you know, when he's hit 324 between Boston and Detroit, not too shabby. Of course, hitting is contagious in Detroit. Of course, Boston's having a good offensive year too.
2-2 pitch misses outside. So Tuiasosopo will be on the run. Big situation here for Chris Sale because Doug Fister's thrown the ball exceptionally well, and the Tigers already have a 2-run lead. That one fouled off. Tuiasosopo will have to go back to first base.
Tell you what, Stoney, Fister's already gone through a bat order today on the right-handed hitters. He has thrown some severe sinkage in on the hands and broken a few bats, and that's why he's probably leading the league in hit batsmen too with 14, because of the fact his ball moves in so much, riding in on right-handed hitters. Because he doesn't walk anybody, he hits them.
Not necessarily a bad thought if you have a clause in your contract about walking.
Stan Williams.
Strike three called on a backdoor breaking ball, and so it's out of the fourth inning and on to the bottom of the fourth in a 2-0 game. Took time to visit with pediatric patients at the University of Chicago Medicine Comer Children's Hospital. The two spent time with a number of patients and passed out Southpaw plush pal dolls to each of them during the visit. Both said the visit was probably more rewarding for them than it was for the kids they met. So to learn more about the White Sox community and charitable outreach efforts, visit whitesox.com/community.
That's wonderful. Right? Thanks, boys are great.
And the White Sox do that a lot.
Yeah,
they
do.
Go to visit the kids. They help in neighborhood reclamation projects. Very charitable organization, always has been. Alejandro Diaz leads it off, and he looks at one down and in. Diaz with a soft little fly ball to center field to lead off the first inning. And he pops this one straight up. Easy play for Tuiasosopo. He calls for it, and he has it.
September 15th is Strikeout Stroke Day. Join the White Sox in their effort to raise awareness of stroke warning signs and the importance of acting fast. Purchase tickets today by visiting whitesox.com or calling 866-SOX-GAME.
Doug Fister was acquired by the Tigers along with David Pauly from Seattle in exchange for Charlie Furbush, Francisco Martinez, Casper Wells, and a player to be named later who turned out to be Chase Ruffin. That was back on August 17th of 2011. Turned out to be a great trade for Detroit, as Fister has certainly fit right in. Last year, 10-10, but his ERA was below 3.5. And this year, 10-5.
You know, he's got a little bit of mannerisms too, Steve. If you look closely, Blackjack McDowell.
Same body type.
Yeah,
certainly.
same body type. Yeah. I'm partial to Blackjack, though. He's one of my favorites all time. You talk about a bulldog. There you have him. He'd pitch. His hip was out of socket. He'd leave the game on crutches every day. Never missed a start.
Base hit.
Atta boy. Finally found the hole.
Second single of the night. So with one out, Gordon's aboard.
He got jammed his first time up. This time, Fister didn't get it quite in there deep enough. A little bit out over the plate. You see the late movement. Gordon's all over. See the head down on contact? For kids out there, if you start off with your chin on your front shoulder and you finish your swing with the chin on your back shoulder, like Gordon Beckham did right there, that is a good swing.
Alexei Ramirez comes up, grounded out to shortstop to end the first inning. And he lines that one foul.
In the last inning, we're talking about Fister hitting people, Stoney, 14 so far. Remember, Stan Williams, your old pitching coach,
yes,
when he was with the Dodgers, had a clause in his contract where he had X amount of walks, he would get a $5,000 bonus. So every time he went 3-0, and this became popular, known to everybody, he'd drill you with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. So he hit about 30 guys one year.
He popped that one up. And Infante goes back and makes the play. Well, to give you an idea how many guys that Stan Williams threw at and hit, he personally got hit 14 times one year. When a pitcher gets hit 14 times, you can only imagine how many guys he's thrown at from the other side.
That's unbelievable. You know, he was the original Big Hurt. And he went to Buzzy Bavasi for this bonus. Buzzy said, wait a minute, you hit 30 guys. He said, I didn't walk him, though. He had to give it up.
Adam Dunn steps up, lined out to Tuiasosopo to lead off the second inning. And he looks at a slow breaking ball for a strike.
That pitch right there will make Fister a lot better pitcher. Start him off with a slow curveball, and that makes that fastball look a lot tougher, a lot quicker to the eye of the hitter.
That one a little off the plate, so the count evens at 1-1. Adams really had a good run at it last 7 weeks. He's hitting over 300. And they're not shifting near as radically on him as they were because he's hit the ball to left field a lot. So that fastball misses in. The Tigers are where they are in the standings because there's the #1 hitting team in the American League. Hitting .281, they lead Boston by a wide margin. #1 pitching team in the American League. they lead Kansas City by just an eyelash. And that's one of the things that Al Avila talked about. He said, you know, Cleveland's okay. We've beaten them a lot. He says, I worry about Kansas City. He says, that's what our team worry about, because when we play them head-to-head, they really give us really tough games. And he's not the Lone Ranger. Kansas City, a much improved ball club now that they added Wade Davis, they added James Shields, they added Irvin Santana to their starting rotation, which was their weak spot. But if you get into their bullpen when they have the lead, you got big problems. 2-2 count with 2 outs, and that one misses up. So the Tigers, since July 21st, 17-3, and here's the reasons why: runs, home runs, ERA, second in batting average, second in wins and winning percentage. They're doing everything right.
Yeah, they got on a roll, and everything's just going their way.
That breaking ball misses down. And so 2 outs, 2 on for Paul Konerko, who grounded to Cabrera in the second.
Well, he tried to backdoor that curveball. That's Kevin Correa had a great success with Adam yesterday with slow pitches. He was glad that he got him out of that game. He had struck him out twice, hit a weak ground ball. And of course, Adam hit a homer his last time up on a fastball.
That ball misses low and away.
It was a good take there by Paulie. See what he's done with runners in scoring position. That's great right there. In this situation, he's got to be thinking left center to right center, and that's his best swing.
Outfield straight away, and he looks at a fastball for a strike. Pfister not overpowering, changes speeds, and like pitchers who are successful, it's the late movement of his changeup, the late movement of his slider, that really gets you off the sweet spot of the bat.
Well, he slowed it down a little bit with runners on base, but he works quickly too, which helps him.
That inside move to second. Doug Pfister, over the course of his major league career with Detroit, as you can see, got with a much better team. He's got a much better record. The ERA is considerably better, and as is batting average against. So it goes to figure, when you leave Seattle, who couldn't score.
Right.
And we'll talk about Felix Hernandez a little bit later in that respect. But you go to a team that can score, and for the most part, if you hit it near them, they're going to field it. Now they're a better defensive team because of Infante at second and Iglesias at short. This is the best defensive team they've been in quite some time, especially with Torrey Hunter in right field.
Yeah, but pitching makes them not have tough plays to make on defense too. You got that quality starter out there every time. That's going to make a lot of guys look better than maybe they actually are, because they don't have to make the tough play as often. Well, they're good. They're well rounded. Atta boy.
That ball gets away, and so the runners move up 90 feet, and runners at second and third, and the base hit now ties it up. Well, in talking about the hitters and what they can do, and the pitchers and what they can do, your defense gets better because in a pregame meeting, pitcher tells you how he's going to throw. Then you set up your defense to that pitcher. And they have pitchers that can work the game plan.
Oh, yeah.
Young pitchers with no control, it doesn't matter where you set up, because more times than not, you're going to hit it away from the defense. So that was the secret of Atlanta all those years when they had Glavine, Smoltz, and Maddox along with Avery. They could work the game plan. That one fouled off, and the count goes full.
They said Maddox could pick the seat out that the guy would hit on if he hit a foul ball, the section, the row, and the seat. But that's great, Stone. You're exactly right. A young pitcher, if he's not hitting the spots, the defensive setup means nothing.
Matter.
What does he throw him here? A hook?
Fastball away. And he missed.
Well, they got lucky on that one. He didn't.
Well, Pena tried to backhand it.
Yeah. You can't do that. That was a bad approach. That was luck right there.
He was very, very lucky to be able to get away with it. So Jeff Jones coming out. He wants a word with Pfister. And Garcia with a chance to do some damage to his former team. What was it? What did it feel like the first time you were let go by one team and you got a chance to play them again?
You know, I think the adrenaline does flow a lot better, a lot more, especially in the first time you face your old teammates, and you always want to do well against them. You know, so yeah, I think this is pretty important for Garcia in this particular instance against former team, especially in this situation with the bases loaded. Do some damage.
Well, Pfister shattered his bat the first time and got a harmless little ground ball to shortstop. Here's our AT&T U-verse multi-view. Good speed at third.
Yes. And? And good speed at third. Ooh, that was huge right there, that pitch.
That's a borderline pitch. It could have gone either way, and it went Pfister's way.
Yeah, Pfister has the advantage now. It probably hit right at the bottom of the strike zone. It's a lot easier to hit 2-0 than it is 1-1, especially in this situation.
Outfield shading around toward right center field.
Another one.
And that fastball catches the inside part of the plate. That one had the whole plate,
oh, yeah.
So can't argue with that.
That was the best of the three to hit. Now you just got to make contact. You got to fight him. I'd say you got to look away here, look fastball away, and try to adjust anything inside.
Ball gets away, and a run's going to score. So the runners move up 90 feet, and it's a 2-1 game. So 2 wild pitches in the inning. And Pena not quite as adept as Alex Avila digging the ball out.
No doubt. Yeah, right there. See, he moves late. Well, that was some bad luck right there. Hit off his chest protector. He was pretty much in front of that, and boy, that took a bad hop for him. But that was really good base running by Gordon Becky. He was gone as soon as that ball was a foot away from Pena right there. So nice job by Gordon.
And 6 wild pitches now for Pfister. Little looper to right field, but it's slicing foul.
Well, the Tigers know Garcia, and they've been pounding him inside. Pfister has so far tonight, except for that one breaking ball that he bounced in way away a moment ago.
Well, that probably shows you, because it's the Tigers who know him best, that shows you what he probably is going to have to work on.
Yep.
2-2 count with 2 outs here in the 4th. And a little looper that Prince Fielder bobbled for a minute in foul territory, corrals it. But not before the Sox get a run, cut the lead in half, and we head into the top of the 5th inning. It's a 2-1 game. One game as we head into the top of the 5th inning. Tigers about hit the Sox 5-2. It's been a sure-handed game. No errors to this point as Jose Iglesias leads it off. Soft little liner to Gordon Beckham to end the 2nd inning. And he looks at a fastball away. Good fastball for a strike.
You know, I like this guy at the plate, Iglesias. He's very simple in his approach. You know, a lot like Cabrera is. He doesn't do a whole lot. There's not a lot of movement to him. Short and quick to the ball, too.
There's the old equalizer, the soft breaking ball. And Chris has got 2 different kinds. One is a biter that moves down and in, and he's got some velocity on that, sometimes up to 82 miles an hour. That one in the 70s. Pops it up. Paul calls for it. Crosses over into foul territory and makes the play. Here's our Avis super slow-mo replay, and this is the ending to the 4th inning. Prince Fielder
Look at
almost drops this one, but the big man corrals it, and they get out of the inning just giving up 1 run.
You know, he's just not a pretty face, you know. Prince Fielder's guy, he's got good hands. You know, you're looking at a guy 5'10", about 280, that moves well. And, of course, he's got a real quick bat, too. He's a heck of a player.
They got themselves a good one, and they got themselves some left-handed protection behind Cabrera, which is exactly what they were looking for. So Austin Jackson, who's 0 for 2, sees the count even at 1. Jackson's really struggled. 2 for 21 lifetime against Chris Sale. So he's up there thinking, you know, if he throws another couple out of the zone, I'm not going to be the most unhappy guy in the field. Good breaking ball, keeps it down, and evens up the count at 2-2.
Well, that's what makes him so tough, as you pointed out, Stoney. He can backdoor that breaking ball and throw it soft, throw it hard, and then come in down and into a right-handed hitter. So he's tough to hit from both sides of the plate.
Yep. He got him.
Woo!
So now 0 for 3, and Jackson continues his struggles with Sale. The American League co-players of the week. Austin Jackson doesn't have a whole lot of problems with other people, and Miguel Cabrera has no problems with anybody. And so for the week of August 5th through the 11th, both of those guys recognized. Torrey Hunter with 2 outs here in the 5th inning, looks at a fastball inside. Hunter is 0 for 2. Having a pretty solid year. Good slow breaking ball.
You know the thing about Sale too, Stoney, there's no other left-hander like him in probably baseball with that type of delivery. So you're seeing this guy once.
The closest to it was Randy Johnson, who threw very similar. That only threw a little bit harder than Chris Sale. Popped it straight up. Beckham calls for it, but gives way to Garcia. Avisail makes the play. So 3 up and 3 down. We'll head to the bottom of the 5th inning. It's a 2-1 game, Detroit. Thank you, our Chuck. And Jeff Keppinger, who singled in the third inning to lead it off, bottom third of the order. And Ken Harrelson, my partner, is not with us this evening. He's a little under the weather. In his place, Tom Paciorek, doing a splendid job making sure that this is not a mundane soliloquy, but
yeah, whatever that means.
Yes.
And you're just saying that, Stoney, because it's true.
I'm just saying that because you're here.
Yeah. Thank you. Great to be here.
Line drive, and Darrell Boston had to get out of the way in a hurry. So Keppinger in a 1-2 hole. Keppinger came over with a 3-year contract. I think at the beginning of the year time, it seemed like he wanted to justify that contract with each and every at bat, and he kept falling deeper and deeper in the hole.
I think you're right. I think he started swinging at pitches everywhere.
That's fair ball down the line. It's going to be 2 bases. And Las Diaz, because a fan touched it, signals a double. So a great way to start the 5th. Keppinger now 2 for 2.
Well, he waited back. Here's a curveball. Kind of hung over the outside corner. It was up. He didn't get it down. But a little hang time is what Jeff did right there. He was out in front of it, but his hand stayed back long enough where he did able to flip it by that third baseman, Cabrera. So nice job. And Jordan Danks, his job is to get him to third for the next guy. That would be Josh Fegley.
Hit the ball pretty hard last time up, only to fly to Austin Jackson in center field. And he lifts the first pitch to left. Tuiasosopo drifting over into the corner. He makes the play, and that is not a good at bat.
Nope.
That shows a youthful hitter maybe not understanding what he had to do and taking a pitch away, Tommy, that you can't pull that ball.
No. And you can, well, you shouldn't swing at it then. If you got to get something that you can pull. So that's one of my pet peeves, Tony, is the fact that hitters nowadays don't make adjustments in situations. If you're a left-handed hitter, you got to get something to pull. So wouldn't it make sense to move a little bit closer to the plate to make everything in so you could pull the ball and get him over the third base? Same thing with a right-handed hitter, move off the plate a little bit in order to go the opposite way.
And I think Robin had a little something to say to Jordan Danks about that at bat. I think it was lack of a thought process, and Hawk is always talking about an approach. I think had he gone up there with the approach of trying to pull everything, he wouldn't have swung at that first pitch.
Right
back up the middle, base hit.
Come on.
Here comes Keppinger. Here comes Jackson. The throw. It's off the mark. And on the play, Fegley goes to second. So he drives in his 12th run of the year. And a huge mistake could very well cost him the lead.
Well, right there, it looked like there was going to be a play on Keppinger at home. He's not the fastest guy in the world. Good job by Josh right here. Fights this inside pitch off. That was good. Going up the middle, that's fine. Now, Keppinger got a good jump, but Austin Jackson, he did too. And Prince Fielder tips that ball. It looked like it was going to be a bang-bang play at home. But when Fielder tipped the ball, not only did it allow Keppinger to score, but it allowed Fegley to get the second.
That brings up Alejandro Diaz. It's a 2-2 game. And he looks at a breaking ball for a strike. Diaz 0 for 2.
As we were talking about Fegley earlier, Steve, that's exactly, hitting the ball up the middle is great. You just don't have to pull the ball to the third baseman or shortstop every time. He's strong enough to fight that ball, that inside pitch up the middle, and got himself an RBI single on it.
With runners in scoring position, Alejandro Diaz has been terrific.
Alejandro really covers the entire plate. He called that a strike.
Well, that ball started outside, never got even close to the plate, and Mark Wegner called it a strike.
Nah, this bad call right here. Look at this. It starts out there, stays out there, and if Alejandro can't reach it, nobody can. Ooh.
That ball misses inside. That's 30 games. Alejandro De Aza hitting .328. He scored 16 runs, which is what you're supposed to do leading off. But he's been a run producer this year. 48 runs driven in.
Not bad.
For a leadoff hitter, that's pretty good.
And power. 13 home runs. A lot of leadoff hitters.
Nope.
Not too many, but that many.
Problem is he's slowed down very much in the run production business. 8 runs batted in over the last 30 games. Base hit left field. And wisely, Josh Fegley couldn't do anything because with Iglesias going over, if Fegley is going to go and Iglesias gets to it, he'd have only one play at the third base. So that's a good base running play by Fegley. And De Aza gets a base hit, but no advancement by Josh Fegley, which is a good thing in this situation.
Yeah, you don't see this very often because he can't tell right there, because if the momentum of the shortstop, Iglesias, is going to take him to that hole, he's going to get nailed Josh at third base, because Cabrera was covering third at the time. You couldn't tell from, and you're exactly right. That was the only chance he had.
Gordon Beckham, who's 1 for 2, singled and scored last inning.
Ouch.
And he hits it right down the line. Fortunately, foul. Now, could it have been, Tom, that Josh Fegley didn't know that Iglesias was lining up the middle?
That's a good point.
Because had he, and then he realized where the ball was hit, then you can take off knowing that even though Iglesias has some range, he doesn't have that much range.
That's a great point, too, because, you know, when you're a base runner, first thing you know is the out situation. Secondly, you got to know where everybody's positioned, especially the outfielders, whether or not you can score on a certain play. But the infielders, you got to know that, too, and that's a great point.
Fastball misses, and Mr. Wagner not having the most consistent of evenings.
No,
that
sir.
ball was a strike, and Gordon Beckham got a tremendous break.
Tell you what, if I'm a right-handed hitter hitting off of Fister, I think I got to back off the plate a little bit and try and take away his best pitch, which I think is that sinking fastball in on the hands.
Well, if you do back off the plate, you're going to invite him to throw the ball away, which is where you want it in the first place.
Yeah.
Off the end of the bat and off the leg of Fister. Into right field, and here comes Fegley. He's going to score, and the Sox go ahead 3-2. So Gordon Beckham drives in his 17th run, and a tremendous break as Fister had no idea where the ball was. It caromed off his leg, and good base running that time by Fegley.
Looked like a Willie Mosconi shot, didn't it? Off the end, and it kind of snaked its way through the infield by Fister, and finally, Gordon Beckham gets a break. Yeah. That ball did not have to go out in the outfield, that's for sure.
As I try to tell my partner, Ken Harrelson, and he always poo-poos me on this, it all evens out. You know, those 50 line drives you hit at somebody, well, it evens out with that base hit there.
Well, that's one. Good hitters line out a lot more than bad hitters.
Lexi Ramirez looks at a breaking ball inside. He's 0 for 2. So 4 hits in the inning have produced a couple of runs. The Sox have the lead at 3-2 for the first time tonight. And Joe McEwing is talking with Alejandro De Aza, and I guarantee you what he's saying is on a fly ball to the outfield, come back to the bag.
Yeah.
That ball chopped right over his head, however.
Always be in foul territory, because if you're in fair territory and them hits you, you're out. There's Super Joe.
Joe's going to be a very good manager in the not too distant future.
Well, I love his energy.
Line drive. And De Aza scores the 4th run. So a big 5th inning. And for Ramirez, his 35th driven in.
He got a high fastball on the inner part of the plate. Got his hands above the ball and smokes it. Watch this replay right here. Not a whole lot of movement to this one. Fister struggling a bit with his command in this inning.
That's a 9-game hitting streak for Alexei Ramirez as Jeff Jones comes out once again. So the bullpen up and going for the first time tonight. 5 hits in the 5th inning. And the Sox have not been able to say that too many times this year.
I concur with that. Yeah, and how about Pfister? He's been so hot in his last 5 starts. We pointed out in the open that he was 4-0 with a 1.5 earned run average, so he's been getting everybody out. I think the inconsistency of the strike zone may be hurting him a little bit. What do you think?
Well, I'm all for calling just about everything strikes.
I thought you might.
As Al Albuquerque loosening in the pen. And Adam Dunn looks at 1 wide. He's 0 for 1. He walked in the 4th inning. He's had a good run lifetime against Pfister. They're playing him pretty deep and straight away. And now Pfister's fallen behind 2-0. Cleveland at the end of 5, trailing Minnesota in Minnesota, 3-0. Every game now for the Indians, a huge game with Kansas City right on their backs. And that ball misses away, and the appeal to Las Diaz, and he says no. Kansas City leading 2-0 in the top of the 5th inning. They've got Miami in Kansas City.
Good chance there.
Fastball taken for a strike, and that was borderline. Paul Konerko in the on-deck circle. He walked to load him up in the 4th inning. Breaking ball down and in, and Adam Dunn walks to load him up.
Wow. Well, you're talking from a guy who hasn't walked many people all season long. That is 3 now in the last 2 innings.
Back-to-back walks with 2 outs last inning. And another walk to load him up to bring up Paul Konerko.
He's got 80 pitches so far. And I'll bet you they're not the same strike ratio that strike-to-ball ratio that he's used to having.
Career with the bases loaded. Paulie has 10 grand slams, hitting .314. But he's had all kinds of problems with Doug Pfister. Curveball for a strike. Paul now 4 for 24 lifetime against Pfister. Takes that one for a strike, and Paul not real happy with the location of that.
No, that was inside. Our pitch tracks will show that. That ball was riding in on there. Nothing he's going to do with this pitch. In off the plate. If he hits it hard, it's going to be foul. If he hits it fair, he's going to take his thumbs off.
Swung at a slider away, and there are 2 outs.
Yep, set him up for this pitch by coming in hard with that sinker. You don't see Paul Konerko do that very often. Completely fooled by that one. Did not pick up any rotation.
And Abisail Garcia, who's 0 for 2, steps up with a chance to do a little damage to his former team. Little chopper. Iglesias flips it across to first, and so it's a big 5th. 3 runs on 5 hits. Sox take the lead as we head into the top of the 6th inning, with the Sox leading 4-2. Stats, tweets with Sox in-game live only at csnchicago.com. Brought to you by Comcast Business Class. Chris Sale has the lead. And he'll be facing the heart of the order.
Yeah.
Cabrera, Fielder, and Martinez. Not an enviable task here in the 6th inning.
Well, you talk about that momentum inning, Stoney. If you have a big inning, get those guys out, 1, 2, 3, and you usually win the game. But it's like you said, this is going to be tough.
37 and 111 on the power numbers, including that home run in the 1st inning. Cabrera hit a home run in Yankee Stadium to help spoil the night for Mariano Rivera after just what Jim Price, their longtime radio broadcaster, calls one of the great at-bats he's ever seen.
Wow. Yeah, he hit 2 off his knee. Didn't he hit 1 off his ankle? They had to come out. The trainer had to come out a couple times.
He fouled the ball right off his shin. Then he fouled it off his foot. Then he got a break when Lyle Oberbe missed a pop-up. Line drive, base hit. So let's take a look at that home run with the backdrop of what happened before. You let Cabrera, after seemingly getting him out, hit one to straightaway center field in Yankee Stadium. And Mariano Rivera can't believe it. Thought he had him out. He didn't.
It looked like the catcher was setting up for a front door cutter, and he didn't get it in there. He got it out, down and out over the plate, and that is just murdered.
Big swing by Fielder, who's 0 for 2.
The thing about the Cabrera, too, that amazes me, Stoney, is he just has not played in his career in a good hitter's ballpark yet.
Well, they
the
have
old Dolphin Stadium, that was
the fences
terrible.
in Detroit.
Well, but still.
And also, Detroit, for the type of hitter that Cabrera is, right field for him is paradise because he can flip the ball and get it out of the park. Now, straightaway center and left center field, pretty tough.
Yeah. Well, it's still not regarded as as one of the great. No. Neither one of those ballparks. Pretty good pitch right there.
1-2 count. Miguel Cabrera, Triple Crown categories, second only to Chris Davis in home runs. Now that he's taken the lead and runs batted in. Line drive, base hit. So we told you it'd be a pretty tough 6th. And 2 hitters, 2 rockets. Brings up Victor Martinez, who's 2 for 2.
And don't even say it.
Nope. But I will tell you that one of the guys that's given us all kinds of problems, Jamie Carroll, who just left here with the Minnesota Twins, we will see when we go to Kansas City on this next road trip, because the Royals acquired Jamie Carroll from Minnesota. Also for Kansas City, Salvador Perez back from his 7-day stint on the concussion disabled list. So Kansas City starting to put it all together. In the bottom of the 5th, they're still leading Miami 2-0. The Indians in the middle of the 6th still trailing Minnesota 3-0. Good fastball for a strike. Victor does not run particularly well, so anything hit on the ground is likely to be 2.
Well, it's good fastball, 96 in on the hands. Got to make 2 more pitches like that.
Ground ball left side. Only play to third base. And they got him. Jeff Keppinger dropped the ball, but picked it up in time as Cabrera getting there an eyelash late. And he seems to be holding his side a bit.
Well, Lexi's only play was going to be the force play at third. A bobble right here by Jeff. He's got to catch that ball, and Cabrera's got to slide. I mean, he may have injured himself because he didn't slide right there, Stone. So whenever you're in doubt, kids, slide and don't go head first.
No, if he comes into third base at normal speed and takes a slide, he's going to beat that play.
He would have, and that would have probably been another hit for Martinez. 9 for 10 it would have been. So actually, he took a hit away from his teammate. I'm just saying that's what it looked like to me.
Natui Sopo comes up 1 for 2 with a run scored. And a good play by Fegley. This could turn out to be one of the biggest plays of the game. And Cabrera loafing in the third, but you can see right there that he just doesn't have the leg strength. I mean, he hurt himself against us, and that right side, I think, is barking to him a bit.
Yeah, that must be it.
Long drive center field, well hit. Danks back. He's got room, and he makes the catch on the track. Wow. So fortunately, a blast, but to the biggest part of the ballpark.
Well, it should have been a bases loaded, no out situation, and that would have been a sacrifice fly. But instead, it's the second out of the inning, and he got one center cut, and he didn't miss it either. Right on the barrel. He barreled it, hit about as good as he can, but Jordan Danks is right there up against the fence at the 400-foot mark to make that play.
That'll bring up Omar Infante with runners at first and second. Infante just off the disabled list. Tigers feel that the slide that put him there wasn't the cleanest play they'd ever seen because there was no double play. It was already a force out, and he was on the shelf for a month. Good fastball for a strike.
You know, getting back to Miguel Cabrera, I kind of forgot about that situation that he had with his injury, and I think he has to be pretty tentative because you can't afford to lose that guy. I mean, he is just unbelievable. So I think in an instance like that, you'll take the out to protect him.
The broken bat will end the inning. So the first two guys aboard run a single, and they don't get any further. So we'll head into the bottom of the 6th inning. It's a 4-2 game.
And ladies, don't forget, that's January 13th through the 20th. And for more information, call 312-674-5398. That is the lovely Joe Simmons who will take care of you. And I'll tell you what, if you want to have a great week, have fun, be with some ex-players who tell you so many great lies and stories, some of them factual. It's a great week. It really is. And the last one we had, we were privileged to have our American heroes, the Armed Forces guys formed a team. We called them Team Salute, and they had a great time. Hopefully those guys will be there back again, and we'll have a wonderful time.
I was there last year and talked with a lot of those guys, and they got a thrill out of it. And if you want to see what a Major League spring training is like for a week, you go to that and you have not only a great time, it's very informative, you have some fun. The nights are equally as much fun as the days, and you're in a beautiful place at Camelback Ranch.
Oh yeah,
it's just gorgeous there. So it's a wonderful time, and hopefully if you're on the fence, you'll participate in that one because you'll really enjoy it. It'll be something that you're never going to forget.
Yeah, and we have some great guys, great coaches, and they can instruct you on how to instruct your kids too. So it's really a well-rounded. And plus, you're having a ball.
And luminaries like Tom Paciorek will be there.
Oh, absolutely.
Ground ball to third. Cabrera picks it up.
Wow.
And fires across to get it. So for the first time this evening, Jeff Keppinger is retired. He was 2 for 2 with a run scored. There was a lot of action around baseball as everybody trying to make some moves to solidify their team. Wesley Wright, pretty good setup man from the Astros, was acquired by the Rays. So Tampa got Wesley Wright for cash considerations from the Astros. And Houston now has one player making over $500,000. One player. Eric Bedard is making $1.5 million. And so you have a roster of guys that basically are playing for the minimum. And it's no wonder the Astros are 37 and 79.
They won't be paying any luxury tax then, will they?
I would think not. But they will be paying the #1 draft pick in the draft, like last year when they picked Mark Appel from Stanford.
Yes.
They're going to get a pitcher who's going to be in the big leagues pretty quickly. And they're going to have the #1 pick again. That's how Washington got so good so quickly. Strasburg, the #1 pick in the draft. Mike Rizzo drafted him, then drafted Bryce Harper with the #1 pick in the draft.
Yeah.
And Jeff Luhnow is trying to do the same thing in Houston. They got Mark Appel this year, and they'll have the #1 pick next year.
I kind of like that philosophy. If that's... if you can't win, you might as well go that route. I think it's great. And you're right. There's outstanding talent. Do you know that Washington actually had an opportunity to get Mike Trout, too? They passed on him.
Base hit for Jordan Danks. So he gets his first hit of the night. Well, there's a lot of people that passed on Trout. I think he was the 25th player picked in the first round. And when you look at what he's done, I mean, it's absolutely been magnificent. Now, last year, everybody said, well, okay, so he's a rookie and nobody knows him. Last year, he hit .326, on base percentage of .399, slugging percentage .564. That's pretty good. He stole 49 bases, hit 30 home runs, 27 doubles, 8 triples, and drove in 83. As well as scoring 129, and he didn't start the year with the team.
Exactly.
So everybody says, well, you have a sophomore jinx because people know him and advanced scouts know him. Well, this year he's hitting .330, .425 on base percentage, .572 slugging percentage, 26 stolen bases, so he's calmed down in that department. He's hit 20 home runs. He's got 32 doubles so far, 8 triples again, 73 driven in. He scored 82. And what Mike Scioscia says is, it's one thing to pitch around him because Pujols is not in the lineup and they don't have a lot of thunder left. But if you pitch around him and put him on, you're throwing a double.
Exactly.
Because he can pretty much steal whenever he wants. And so this is a guy that keeps on getting better. He's becoming one of the great players of our time, even though this is just his second year. And yes, a lot of teams passed on him in that first round.
Yeah, 5-tool guy, bona fide 5-tool guy. And in my opinion, I think he's the best all-around player in baseball today.
He only hit .379 in July, but he's slumping. He's hitting .345 this month, so it's not like he's getting that much better.
Yeah, he's really something.
Josh Fegley with an RBI last time up as he singled right back through the middle in that big 3-1 fifth. If you're just joining us, my partner Ken Harrelson a little under the weather. We hope he gets back as quickly as he possibly can. Tom Paciorek sitting in for him. And it's a 4-2 game as the Sox lead the Tigers. They've out-hit them 8-7, and it's been an errorless game. Broken bat. Pfister can't get to it. The play to first. He got him at first. What a play by Iglesias.
That's unbelievable.
When Pfister couldn't get to it, Danks couldn't run because he doesn't know if Pfister's going to make the play. And Tommy, take it away.
Look at this right here. I mean, I thought he had no chance whatsoever. Look at it all in one motion. As he's getting the ball, he's throwing it at the same time. You just can't do this.
Completely airborne.
Yeah. And it was close. I think he got him by a half a step, a toenail.
Nice call by Mike Winters, and just a great play by Jose Iglesias. You'll see that in a highlight reel.
Oh, yeah. That's going to make a lot of them. Boy, what a terrific play. What they got him for.
And Danks moves into scoring position as Alejandro Diaz, 1 for 3 with a run scored, steps up. And that ball gets by Pena. It's a hanging breaking ball, but it looks like it probably would be a pass ball. We'll have to see what Bob Rosenberg has to say about this.
Rosie will jump all over this one. Well, he may have gotten mixed up on the sign. Yeah, boy, that is high, though. Slipsies by Pfister.
It is ruled a pass ball.
You know, one last note about that fantasy camp, Steve, is that the camp coordinator, the director, the big kahuna.
Yes. Is?
The honcho, Bill Melton, our own. So, you know, to be with Bill Melton for a week is worth it. That's what he said.
Buddy. And I think, I mean, looking at the price, I think it's a bargain at twice the price.
It is.
What is that price?
I don't know. Why don't you read it?
With Bill Melton, it's $50. Without him, it's $4,195.
It's a great week. I certainly invite everybody to come. We will have a ball. We promise you that. Nobody goes home disappointed.
2-2 count with 2 outs here in the 6th inning.
And let's not forget the greatest storyteller of all time, our own Art Kushner, will be there. He is the best.
Lifted into left field, an easy play for Tuiasa Sopo. So a base hit goes for naught, and we head into the 7th. Sox lead 4-2. Ticket with the U.S. Bank Flex Perks Travel Rewards Visa Signature Card. Apply today at any U.S. Bank branch. $400 airline ticket. Not bad.
So what's the catch? There is none.
Just enroll.
There you go.
Just enroll, and it is yours. Bottom part of the order, Pena, Iglesias, then back to the top with Jackson to face Chris Sale. Chris has given up 7 hits, a couple of runs. Cabrera's hit his 37th home run of the year. Victor Martinez with a couple of hits. Cabrera with a couple of hits. And Pena with an RBI double in the 2nd as he looks at a fastball off the corner.
Well, Chris really dodged a bullet last inning. 2 straight hits by the big boys. And then he was able to wiggle his way out. So nice job of pitching.
That evens the count. Cleveland has released Mark Reynolds, the 30-year-old, hitting .215 with 15 home runs and 48 runs batted in. It doesn't sound all that bad until you consider what he did in April.
Yes.
And that is, got off to a red-hot start. In April, he's hitting .301 with 8 home runs and 22 driven in. He's gotten very cool since then, and Cleveland decided to part ways with him. So there's a lot of clubs maneuvering right now to, 1, try to get into the postseason, and 2, try to solidify their rosters for the postseason. He breaks the bat and fouls it away. I wouldn't be surprised if Mark Reynolds were picked up, because right-handed power hitters are at a premium, and Reynolds is the kind of hitter that can go for a month and a half and not hit anything, and all of a sudden he can carry you for 3 or 4 weeks. And right now, that's really all you need, and Cleveland's going to pay the freight.
Yeah, exactly. Not much of an investment right there, and he is a dangerous guy. He's a pretty good fielder, you know, whether at third or at first base. But you're right, so especially against tough left-handers, you might as well throw him out there. He's got a chance to hit one out of the ballpark at any time.
Caught the outside corner with the backdoor breaking ball, and Pena is down on strikes.
Boy, here's a big breaker right here. He kind of gives up on it, and right on the back door. Boy, you just can't give up on any pitch that Chris Sale throws. Framed very nicely by Josh Fegley.
That'll bring up the defensive wizard at shortstop, Jose Iglesias, who made a play that Tommy and I have not seen really the likes of in quite some time, and we've seen a little baseball over the years.
Exactly. You know, that's an Ozzie Smith type play, whom I think was the greatest infielder ever.
Ozzie was terrific, certainly. You fall in the same category with Omar Vizquel.
Oh, yeah.
Who was about as good as it got. Louis Aparicio, another great one. There have been some great shortstops, but Ozzie was one of the great ones at short. And if Omar wasn't that good, he was right there. Shot to the right side. Great play by Beckham from his knees. Safe at first.
Iglesias can run. Beckham made a great play right there. My goodness, but he just was in a position where he couldn't put anything on the throw. Quite an inning for Iglesias. Look at him. He's diving fully extended, and he just can't get up off his knees and kind of flips the ball to first base. It takes a long time to get to Konerko, and as you can see, it looked like a tie.
We can slow it down. You can't really tell. But Mike Winters said if it was a tie, it goes to the runner, so he winds up at first base with a base hit. That's the 8th Tiger hit of the night, and brings up Austin Jackson, who is doing what he usually does against Chris Sale. He's 0 for 3 with a strikeout. Sale has fanned 5, hasn't walked anybody, and given up the 8 hits and just a couple of runs. And the Tiger bullpen up and going. Rondon has joined Albuquerque. Bruce Rondon.
They say he can bring it up.
He can get it up there. 100, 101 miles an hour we've seen him at. Count evens at 1-1.
Well, that was a huge hit there by Iglesias, because it sets up the top of the order having a possibility for the big guys to hit in this inning.
Count goes to 2-1. So the outfield shading Jackson around toward right center field. Fairly deep all the way around. Chris Sale at 87 pitches with an out here in the 7th inning. And a good changeup in a perfect spot.
That's right. I've almost forgotten that Austin Jackson was acquired from the Yankees with Phil Koch and Ian Kennedy for Curtis Granderson.
Was a terrific trade for everybody concerned.
Yeah.
And the reason is Yankee Stadium was made for Granderson with 41 home runs last year. Tiger Stadium is someplace where you need a burner in center field, and Jackson is just an outstanding center fielder. So You trade the left-hander to the left-hand hitter's ballpark. You get the right-hand hitter, but a guy who can make up for any defensive deficiencies on the corner in center field, and it's worked out for both teams. Ground ball over to second for one, back to first, double play and out of the inning. So it's time for the 7th inning stretch as the Sox lead 4-2.
Or more for a Sox game during the 2013 season and receive savings off the individual game ticket price. Enhance your outing by upgrading to our new Miller Lite bullpen party porch, pregame patio parties, diamond suites, or one of our other great party areas. Call 312-674-1000 or visit whitesox.com to book your group outing today.
Al Albuquerque comes into the ball game. Albuquerque in 2-3, the ERA 5.12, on for the 35th time. He's got 47 strikeouts in 31 2/3 innings. That part of it's good. He also has 27 walks in the same 31 2/3 innings. So Al has had some control difficulties. His attendance tonight, 19,590.
He loves that slider, doesn't he, Albuquerque?
He's got it. And a 1-2 count on Gordon Beckham, who's 2 for 3 tonight with a run batted in and a run scored.
Get in.
Make that 3 for 4.
Here, wait, Gordon, have a night.
Here's our AT&T tweet of the game, and it's from JPS Her 7.
I didn't send it, or none of my relatives did either.
And it says, with Jose Abreu on the market and the money the Sox have saved, will they make a serious offer to the new Cuban defector? Oh. And for those of you who haven't heard, Jose Dariel Abreu has defected from Cuba. That's the rumor, because nobody quite knows where he is. Some people think he might be in Haiti. Some people think he might be in the Dominican Republic. But he is the best Cuban defector there ever was. Ground ball to short. This could be 2, and it is. But back to Abreu. He's the country's best hitter. He's 26 years old. He's a first baseman, so there's a lot of teams that probably can't go after him because first base is tied up for a long time, i.e. the Tigers with Fielder.
Yes.
But there are some teams who would be interested in him, and they believe that the price And bear in mind, the price for Yasiel Puig was $42 million. They're talking about the price for Abreu at $70 to $80 million. If that really is the price that he's going to sign at, I would say no, the Sox will not be serious contenders for his services. That being said, the Sox will indeed have a whole lot of money with Rick Hahn clearing the payroll over the last month. However, these numbers are pretty big numbers, and although Abreu has got a chance to be just an outstanding hitter, and some think that in his first year playing every day, which will be almost immediately, he could be an all-star, that this is a guy that a lot of teams will go after. Now, bear in mind, the Dodgers, who are spending money quite freely, they've got a first baseman for a long time, Adrian Gonzalez. So they took the money of Carl Crawford and Josh Beckett to get Gonzalez. I don't think he's going anyplace anytime soon. The Dodgers, that being said, have spent a great deal of money in the international market, notably with some very good Cuban players.
Right.
And Puig has worked out, as you know, very well for them. So that's the story of Jose Dariel Abreu.
I think I saw him play in Puerto Rico during the World Baseball Classic. I was doing some radio there, and I do remember an outstanding first baseman. He was very young at the time, of course. That was the first World Baseball Classic. And, boy, they had those guys under wraps. They couldn't do anything.
Well, he somehow got away.
Yeah.
As Adam Dunn looks on and lines a base hit to right field. So Dunn is 1 for 2. The big man has been squaring it up a lot. And that batting average, it doesn't sound like a whole lot, but he's hitting right around 230. 231 exactly, Dave Ross informs us. And he's come up from 199.
Yeah.
The last 7 weeks, he's been hitting the ball pretty well.
No doubt. He's not missing his pitch. Right there, that low fastball or cutter, whatever you want to call that one. That's his area that he likes it, and he's not missing it now.
Paul Konerko drew a walk in the 4th, sandwiched in between a ground out and a strikeout. He is 0 for 4 in his career against Al Albuquerque, one of the great names in all of baseball, and a line drive base hit to right. Well, Paul stays right with it, keeps the inning alive. It's 3 singles in the inning, but no runs yet. Runners at first and second with 2 outs. And Abisail Garcia.
Nice job by Paulie. There's that perennial slider. It's up. And look at Paulie. Let it get deep. See how his head winds up, his chin actually winds up on his back shoulder. So it's a perfect swing by Paulie on that particular pitch to set up this situation for Garcia. Now, is Abreu right-handed hitter? Or is he left-handed hitter? I do remember a first
You're the one who saw him play.
I did see him play, and I remember he was real good, but that was... I don't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, okay? So
well,
this was probably 5-6 years ago.
Believe me, I understand completely. I don't know where my car is parked, but it's safe to say that he's going to be a very wealthy young man, regardless of which side he hits from.
It's amazing.
I suspect a right-handed hitter.
Yeah, that's... Okay. Thank you, Dave Ross.
Right at Infante and out of the inning. So despite 3 hits, there is no runs, and we'll head into the top of the 8th inning. It's a 4-2 game Sox. And the Whimperoo thanks you also. So Torrey Hunter to lead it off. It'll be Hunter, Cabrera, and Fielder. And Chris Sale still in the game. Soft breaking ball for a strike. Torrey Hunter's 0 for 3. Strikeout, ground out, and a fly out. That breaking ball misses away. Just to follow up on Jose Dariel Abreu. The last full season he played in Cuba, which was a little over a year ago. In 66 games, mind you, he had .453. He had 33 home runs and drove in 93 runs in 66 games. So when they call him the best Cuban defector ever,
yeah,
those are the kind of numbers that support that.
Whoa.
1-2 count on Hunter. Swings and misses a biting breaking ball. That ball did not hit the dirt. And Torrey Hunter, for the second time tonight, goes down on strikes.
I can't believe that ball didn't hit him as he was swinging. And Sox fans, on Friday, August 23rd, be sure and stay for an Elvis-themed post-game fireworks display presented by St. Xavier University. St. Xavier University, success with a purpose. www.sxu.edu. Thank you. Thank you very much. Great crowd.
Miguel Cabrera looks at one up and away. He's 2 for 3 tonight. Hit his 37th home run. Drove in run number 111 in the first inning. And he fouls that ball off to the right. Miami no sooner tied up Kansas City at 2 than the Royals have taken the lead at 4-2 in the bottom of the 6th inning. Cleveland in the top of the 8th at Minnesota, still trailing 3-0. Sky to right field, and Garcia with an easy play. So 2 up, 2 down here in the 8th inning.
Boy, he made a great pitch on him up and in. So you know Miguel has got to be looking away to protect that outside corner because he's not going to strike out that often. But he just paints him. Tough to get to that pitch just above the belt, trying to get your hands in on that one, and yet you're thinking away at the same time. Just great job by Chris.
That ball lifted. Gordon Beckham calling for it, and he has it. So a quick 1-2-3 8th. We'll head to the bottom of the 8th as Chris Sale walks off to applause. Sox lead 4-2. Miller light, and in the 6th inning with 2 out and nobody on, Victor Martinez came up bidding for his 3rd hit of the night. Ramirez to Keppinger, who bobbled the ball, but they get the force at 3rd, and then Tuiasosopo hits the daylights out of one to center field, but Dank's there to make the catch. And the inning ends on Infante on a broken bat force out, and Chris Sale out of the inning and turns away the Tigers. Those are our Miller moments. And Jeff Keppinger to lead it off against Al Albuquerque. Looks at a fastball for a strike. Keppinger 2 for 3. Single in the third, a double in the big 3-run fifth. He scored a run and a ground out in the sixth. Good slider on the outside corner as Albuquerque certainly enjoys that slider.
He does. But, you know, he throws 95, too, like that first fastball. So, man, I'd like to see him throw. If I'm the Tigers, I'd like to see him throw more heaters.
Base hit back up the middle, and Jeff Keppinger has his third hit of the night.
And here's my favorite. You can stay connected to your White Sox all season long. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. I love that. Pin us on Pinterest. Add US to your circle on Google Plus and reblog our unique Tumblr content. Visit whitesox.com/connect today. And that might as well have been Japanese.
I don't know if you know this, but I do have a teaching degree. And your homework, you're going to take that home with you.
I got one too.
You're going to read it. You're going to read it 8 or 10 times, and you'll get it down. I mean, that's a fairly easy one.
It is?
Oh, yeah. Also, to me, it sounds almost like Greek, because I have no idea what you're talking about. But I can pen you on Pinterest with the best of them.
I got a better chance of doing that in Polish.
It actually sounds like you did do it in Polish.
And I, too, have a degree in teaching, Stoney. So anybody can get one.
Base hit, center field. Keppinger on his way to third. The throw comes into second, and there's runners at the corners and nobody out. So Jordan Danks with a couple of hits tonight.
That boy.
As Albuquerque has given up 5 singles in 1+ innings.
Well, maybe that fastball's a little straight, and Jordan just hammers it. See how he makes contact out in front of home plate, hands above the ball on that high fastball. Nice job by Keppinger reading it, knowing where the outfielders are, so he gets to third base. Nobody out. Let's see if Josh Fegley can get another RBI.
And with that second hit in the inning, a couple of relievers ran to the mound in the Tiger pen. This is still a 2-run game, but the Sox threatening to put it away here in the 8th inning. That's 13 hits tonight for the Sox offense. Yet only 4 runs to this point.
Oops, here comes
Jimmy Leland is coming out with the long, slow walk. And he's got that look like, I'm going to take you out, but I'm going to take as much time as I can to let that pen get loose. And it's Rondon again. And the left-hander is Phil Koch.
Yeah, he wants the strikeout here. And Rondon is the guy.
And he's going to wait for Mark Wegner to come all the way out there to let Rondon get as many pitches as he possibly can. And then he will make a move. And it is Rondon. So the big, young, hard-throwing right-hander will come into the ball game with runners at the corners and nobody out. Sox already lead 4-2. So as Albuquerque walks out, we'll step out and be back after these messages. Postgame Live presented by Orland Park Nissan. Chuck Garfine and Bill Melton bring you their take on today's action and look ahead to the next division battle. Don't miss White Sox Postgame Live right after the game on Comcast Sportsnet. Our Honda call to the pen is Bruce Rondon. He's 1-1, the ERA, .419, on for the 19th time, 19 in the third innings. He's walked just 7 while fanning 19. However, he has made 5 wild pitches. And in spring training, they tried to make him a closer, but he couldn't get the ball in the neighborhood of the plate. Infield in at all 4 positions. And Fegley looks at a fastball well in off the plate at 101 miles an hour.
That's firm.
You ever face anybody that threw that hard?
Absolutely. Nolan Ryan, J.R. Richards.
J.R. a little tough to pick up.
He had a 95-mile-an-hour slider.
Outfield straightaway as Fegley 1 for 3 with a run batted in and a runner going. Base hit through a run in the infield. Jordan Danks turning it on, and now Joe McEwing holding him at third base. So Rondon never looked at him at first. It turned out to be the ideal hit and run. Fegley drives in his second of the night, and it's a 5-2 game.
Great job by Jordan Danks right here. There's a bullet in on his hands, and he fights it off. That's right. Don't try and pull that pitch, especially at that mileage. So a big insurance run, plus that runner is at third again. Jordan Danks, same situation, only a run in for the Sox. Still nobody out for De Aza.
And the infield has to stay in at all 4 positions.
Stoney, they got him listed at 6'3", 275.
I think it's an optimistic 275. Bear in mind, he still is a very young man.
Yeah.
So next year he has a chance to get older.
You think? Next year you're saying he might make Prince Fielder look like a jockey?
No, I think that he'll get older. I'm not sure if the control is quite going to be there. But you can't teach a great arm.
Oh, boy, he got some kind of arm.
Left field.
Hello.
Here comes the throw. And Jordan Danks beats the play. So as soon as that ball was hit to Tuiasa Sopo, he went back to third.
He got a great jump. That was great base running by Jordan. He created that run. So the Sox doing some nice manufacturing of runs in this inning. Good job.
RBI number 49. And good solid base running. And nice execution by De Aza.
Yep.
And it's a 6-2 game.
Yeah, good inside-out swing. Hit the ball to the outfield, and you got a chance. Having a run.
6th sacrifice fly of the year for Alejandro. That brings up Gordon Beckham, who's 3 for 4. And he looks at a slider up high. Bobby Thigpen on the phone. And Don Cooper. So far, no action in the pen. Fastball catches the inside corner. Gordon is 1 for 2 lifetime against Rondon with a home run. And Chris Sale, a very happy man to see 6 up there on the board. That one misses inside. So Chris has gone 8. He's given up 8 hits. The big key is he hasn't walked anybody. And 14 hits tonight. And the oddity of this one, nary a 1 out of the ballpark. So you've got 14 hits without the benefit of a home run. The Sox this entire season have had trouble winning games when they don't hit the ball out of the park. They're 10-35 when they don't homer. But tonight, they found a lot of very comfortable places in the outfield for the ball to settle safely.
Yeah, they're not striking out. They're putting it in play. You know, there's been a lot of broken bats.
Fisher only had 1 strikeout.
Yeah.
Little chopper to shortstop. Iglesias the second for 1. Back to first. And it's a double play and out of the inning. But not before the Sox score 2. It's a 6-2 game. And 3 outs to go in the top of the 9th. Has 6 of them tonight, and they've been on a variety of pitches. That one a low fastball, that a sweeping breaking ball, that a sharp breaking slider, another one down and in to Hunter, and that is the whiff, brought to you by Head and Shoulders. And 8 innings, 8 hits, a couple of runs, no walks, which is the key, and 6 strikeouts. He started out a little shaky, gave up a run in the first, a run in the second, and like so many good pitchers, when you don't get him early, you don't get him. And after the second, Chris Sale slammed the door. But we'll think back to that 6th inning with runners at first and second after a Cabrera line drive, a Fielder line drive, and the play by Martinez on a ground ball to shortstop. As the first pitch skied to center field, and Jordan Danks for out number 1. So Victor Martinez, who grounded to Ramirez at short, only to see the force out at third, and Chris Sale got out of that 6th inning with no damage at all.
You know, you have to think, because the game was very close at that point. Yeah, they load the bases with nobody out, and good Lord, they're known, the best offensive team in baseball, and you got to think that something might have happened for them, and for Chris to get out of that inning unscathed is pretty remarkable.
Tuiasosopo made the second out of that inning on a Titanic fly ball, but straight away center field as he looks at a sweeping slider for a strike. Tuiasosopo 1 for 3. He scored a run in the 2nd inning. Good changeup, and he's in the hole 0-2. Chris Sale bidding for his 8th win, 102 pitches. This would be his 4th complete game and the 5th complete game of the year for the Sox. And that backdoor breaking ball misses away. Just misses inside, so the count goes to 2-2. The bullpen ready just in case. Chris Sale showing every indication that he wants to finish this one, because you know Don Cooper said to him coming into this inning, especially with a 4-run lead, you got enough left to go get him, and he answered in the affirmative. Base hit to right field by Tuiasosopo, giving him 2 for the night.
Tell you what, he's had some good at bats tonight. Just missed that homer, couple of hits. He could just as easily be 3 for 4. Very valuable against left-handed pitching. And there you go. Look at that chin on that back shoulder. And this is a good pitch. That's a pitcher's pitch. He lets it get a little bit deeper. Hands before the barrel of the bat, though, was the key on that swing.
Brings up Omar Infante, his first game back off the disabled list, and he's 0 for 3. Line drive left field, but Diaza there to make the play. So he puts it away, and there are 2 outs. Sale now 1 out away for complete game number 4. You're going to find a whole lot of great pitchers, and there's one of them on this Tiger team that we are going to see, Max Scherzer.
No.
Made 156 major league starts and does not have a complete game. And he's 17-1 this year.
That's something.
Fans on their feet, and deservedly so for Chris Sale. Almost 20,000 in the park. And they've been treated to a dandy of a ball game as Chris Sale catches a strike with a backdoor breaking ball. Brian Pena, who doubled and drove in a run in the second inning, is 1 for 3. Changeup misses inside, and the count evens at 1. With Alex Avila on the disabled list because of concussion syndrome, Brian Pena will get a little more action. Little chopper to third base. This should be it. The long throw across. And Paulie picks it, and that's it. Sox win. Chris Sale with a gem here tonight. A complete game. And the Sox beat the Tigers 6-2. So all in all, after that shaky start, what'd you think of Chris Sale tonight?
I thought he was great. He got it. And as you pointed out, Stoney, a good pitcher or a great pitcher, you got to get him early in the ball game. You got to get him early in the count. And I'll tell you what, he made some great pitches on some great hitters tonight. I mean, the Detroit Tiger lineup, #1 in baseball, in my opinion. And to hold them to only 2 runs, I don't care how many hits you gave up, you pitched a heck of a ball game.
And when you come in 10-35 without hitting the ball out of the ballpark, and you come through and get 14 hits, none of which left the yard, you'd have to figure that the offense tonight, for whatever reason, had a pretty good game plan against Pfister.
Well, you pointed out, too, that there was only 1 strikeout by the Sox there. So if you put the ball in play, you know, there's a lot of hits on the handle of the bat. There's one right there by Josh Begley. You hit the ball on the handle, you got a chance to get a hit. And there's a little bit of luck. Finally, Gordon Beckham catches a break and gets himself an RBI single. And Lexi Ramirez hammers that high fastball. So all in all, it's a great offensive show by the Sox. There's another jam shot. See, there's hits on that handle.
Well, Beckham had 3 hits tonight. Keppinger had 3 hits. Danks had 2. Begley had 2. I mean, it was one of those nights when a lot of things went right. And usually what happens, they talk about momentum being as good as your starting pitcher. Well, our starting pitcher, Chris Sale, was pretty good tonight, but he was backed up both offensively and defensively by a complete team effort on the part of the Sox. This was one of the better ball games all year for the Sox.
No question about it. And when you're a great pitcher that works quickly, the defense is on their toes. They're more likely to make a play for you, make a good defensive play for you. And the Sox were tremendous. They pitched well tonight. They caught the ball well, and they hit it tremendously well, too.
Here's our GMC player of the game, and it is Chris Sale.
Oof.
9 hits in 9 innings, a couple of earned runs. The key, no walks at all. And that's the amazing part about it, because he started out, he didn't locate his fastball last time out, but still only gave up 1 run. But he came back tonight. He looked like a man on a mission after that second inning. And he threw the ball just unbelievably well. So when you have a #1 starter, Chris Sale is just that. You expect when you have a bad series, and that's what happened in the Minnesota series. It was just a bad series. And Chris Sale went out and he set the tone for this entire series against the Tigers with this effort tonight. So you'd have to think that Chris Sale's got to be a very happy young man.
I'll tell you what, every time I've seen him, he's one of those guys who you think he's going to pitch a great game every time he goes out there. His delivery is so much different from everybody else. But the fact he battled hard, you know, he's got 8 wins now, Stone. He could have 15, 16.
And Chris, Steve Stone and Tom Paciorek up in the booth, and going the distance had to give you a great deal of satisfaction here tonight. It's against a very good baseball team.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you go up against a squad like that, they're real good, and they bring the heat. So anytime you can have an outing like that against a team like that, and give those guys down there in the bullpen a rest is always good.
It looked to me, Chris, like one of the keys being the fact that you didn't walk anybody, but for the first time in a long time, you got a lot of offensive support from your teammates.
Yeah, I mean, that was awesome to watch. First few innings, you start off a little slow, but that just shows the fight that we have, and the competitors we have in this clubhouse. Never giving up, never backing down, and putting some good swings on some pitches.
Chris, tell us about that 6th inning. What did it look like from your perspective?
Which side?
From when you were out on the mound and you gave up the hits to Fielder and Cabrera, and you came back strong to get them. Don't you think that was the key to the ball game?
Yeah, anytime you get 2 on and nobody out, I knew it was time to bear down right there, especially after an inning that we scored. Those are shutdown innings that you want to have. So just focus a little bit more and bear down and make some pitches.
Well, Chris, congratulations, win number 8. Many more, I'm sure, in your future, but you had a great one tonight, and thank you for being on with us.
Thanks, Tony. I appreciate it, guys.
Okay. So for my partner, Tom Pachorik, and for Ken Harrelson, who's a little under the weather, our director, Jim Angio, our producer, Mike Leary, our associate producer, Dave Ross, our technical manager, Mark Harper, and for the executive producer, Jim Corno. This is Steve Stone saying so long, everybody. Coming up next, the Orland Park Nissan postgame show with Chuck and Bill. You've been watching Chicago White Sox baseball on Comcast Sports Net.